If you have an autoimmune disease, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's, lupus, multiple sclerosis, psoriasis, or any autoimmune condition, your doctor probably told you it's genetic and that you're stuck with it, that you'll need medications for life. And I'm about to show you why that's a lie that keeps you sick and dependent on the system forever. But before we dive in, I want to tell you about Dr. Terry Wahls. She's a clinical professor at the University of Iowa who was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Within 7 years, she was in a tilt recliner wheelchair, unable to sit up, and the best conventional medicine had to offer was failing her. So she took matters into her own hands, where she addressed the root causes I'm about to share with you, and within 1 year, she was back on her bike. Today, she's now leading research helping MS patients who catch it early enough to reverse their disease. If MS can be reversed, your autoimmune condition can be addressed too, but only if you stop accepting what they're telling you and start looking at what's really going on. Now, let me show you the 5 root causes destroying your immune system that your doctor never tested for and what you can do about it. Root cause number 1, leaky gut and the zonulin connection. 70% of your immune system lives in your gut, not your blood, not your lymph nodes, not your digestive tract. Your gut lining has these protective barriers called tight junctions, and they keep your intestinal cells locked together like a fortress wall, keeping the inside of your body separate from the outside world, which is technically the inside of the gut too. Now, when those tight junctions break down, you develop what they call intestinal permeability, or AKA leaky gut. Now, once this happens, you have undigested food particles, toxins, and bacteria that are leaking into your bloodstream. And then your immune system starts attacking those foreign particles, or those foreign invaders that leak in. But here's where it gets devastating, is that some of these foreign substances look almost identical to your healthy tissue. It's called molecular mimicry. And I remember when I first heard about it, it's basically saying that your body doesn't attack its own tissues because it's going rogue. It's attacking what's hiding in your own tissues. And so your immune system then gets confused and starts attacking your thyroid, your joints, your brain, your pancreas, or whatever tissue looks similar to the invader. And here's what makes me furious, is that there's a protein called zonulin that regulates these tight junctions. And so when zonulin levels are high, those junctions open up. And when it's low, they stay tight and secure. So what I find with my patients is that zonulin is almost always elevated with my autoimmune patients. And it's the primary regulator of intestinal permeability. And certain foods are going to spike zonulin levels through the roof. So I've looked into it to find out which foods are more likely to drive zonulin levels and leaky gut. And that first one is gluten. The molecular structure of gluten is proven to increase zonulin in just about everyone, not just people with celiac disease. Almost every single person that eats a lot of gluten can trigger this zonulin increase. And gluten is one of the only proteins your body can't fully digest. So you get this undigested gluten protein floating around through your leaky gut into your bloodstream, triggering immune reactions. Number 2 is sugar. Both glucose and fructose directly increase zonulin and increase gut permeability. So every time you eat sugar, it's almost like you're punching holes in your gut lining. Alcohol. It creates intestinal permeability almost immediately. One drink is enough to compromise your gut barrier. Vegetable oils like corn oil, soy, canola, cottonseed, these industrial seed oils are highly inflammatory and they destroy your intestinal lining. But what's wrong here is that a lot of endocrinologists or rheumatologists don't ever look to see if you have increased intestinal permeability. And so they don't run a stool test. They don't look at the microbiome. They don't even look or talk about the foods that could be causing these problems, because healing your gut isn't going to require prescription. And quite frankly, that's what medical doctors are trained in. They're trained in using prescription medications to help their patients. So it's not that they're evil or they're villains, it's just not what they've been trained to do. So root cause number 2, microbiome devastation. And the number of beneficial bacteria in your gut directly controls your immune function. And these microbes aren't just passengers, they're a massive part of your immune system. And research shows us that an autoimmune patient can have significantly lower microbial diversity compared to a healthy individual. So your gut is like a rainforest that's been clear cut. And what destroys that rainforest? Antibiotics. They don't just kill bad bacteria, they decimate your beneficial microbes. And each round of antibiotics makes it worse because certain bacteria develop resistance and then share that resistance with other microbes through something called horizontal gene transfer. And I can't tell you how many of my autoimmune patients I see who who took multiple rounds of antibiotics in the years before their diagnosis. And so this gut connection is undeniable. Another factor is glyphosate. It's an herbicide and Roundup that's in GMO foods and sprayed on wheat especially, and it has a patent as an antibiotic, and it kills the beneficial microbiome in your gut that you depend on for your immune function. The next thing that kills your diversity in your gut is processed foods that don't feed your beneficial bacteria. They feed pathogenic bacteria instead. And here's what's tragic is that your microbiome development started at birth. So if you're born via C-section, if you weren't breastfed, if you were given antibiotics as a child, your immune system never developed the microbial diversity it needed to be healthy. But the good news here is that we can rebuild it. We must rebuild it. And that means that we need fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, that we need real probiotics with diverse strains, that we need prebiotic fiber from vegetables to feed those beneficial bacteria. And this is a non-negotiable for autoimmune healing. Root cause number 3 is gut infections that nobody's testing for. So you want to know what I find in almost every autoimmune patient when I run a comprehensive stool test is that they have infections that no one's ever looked at. We find things like blastocytosis hominis, which is a parasite creating chronic gut inflammation and triggering immune dysfunction. And most doctors dismiss parasites completely, and they're absolutely wrong. H. pylori, this is a stomach infection that blocks nutrient absorption and creates chronic inflammation. Candida overgrowth, it's a fungal overgrowth that creates toxins that trigger immune dysfunction and worsen leaky gut. Or bacterial dysbiosis is a pathogenic bacterial overgrowth that's been clinically shown to drive autoimmune condition. But here's the problem is that standard stool tests that your doctor orders typically miss these types of infections. They're just not comprehensive enough and they're not looking at the right markers. So your immune system stays in attack mode while they just keep increasing your immunosuppressant drugs. In our office, we use a test called the GI map that looks at the DNA markers for these pathogens. So it's much more sensitive and specific. And it actually finds what's driving the immune dysfunction because you can't heal what you can't identify. Root cause number 4 is a toxic burden that's poisoning your immune system. See, we're living in the most toxic environment in human history, and those toxins are triggering immune reactions in susceptible individuals. Things like heavy metals like mercury from dental fillings and fish, lead from old paint and pipes that accumulate in your tissues and create ongoing immune dysfunction, mold toxins from water-damaged buildings. I can't tell you how many autoimmune patients I've seen whose symptoms started or worsened after moving into a moldy home or working in a water-damaged building. Glyphosate that we've already discussed, it's in non-organic foods. It's also being sprayed on our parks and our playgrounds and our yards, and it's everywhere. BPA and phthalates from plastics, receipt paper, personal care products. These toxins don't just disappear when they go into our bodies, they accumulate and they create this chronic inflammation in our systems, and they dysregulate your immune system, and eventually that dysregulation can manifest as autoimmune disease if you have the genetic predisposition. But does your doctor ever discuss heavy metals, mold exposures, environmental toxic burdens? Probably not, because detoxification doesn't fit into the medical paradigm right now. Currently, they're using prescription medications, and that's about it to help regulate your immune system. And that's where the travesty and the tragedy lies. And that's why so many people are continuing to suffer, because we have to look at this more than a pill for an ill. We have to look at this systemically and say, how are these different systems of the body, how do they interact with our immune system, and what can we do to balance these systems so that we can have better health? But when we systematically remove toxins while supporting the natural body's detox pathways, that's when everything can change for our patients. Root cause number 5 is critical nutrient deficiencies or insufficiencies. What's important to understand here is that your immune system cannot function properly without specific nutrients. And most autoimmune patients are walking around with multiple deficiencies that are literally fueling their disease. Vitamin D, for example, it's critically important for immune regulation. And most autoimmune patients that I test, their levels are in the basement. And the problem here I'm seeing is that patients walk in with a level of like 32, but their doctor is telling them that that's normal. But the problem is if 30, the cutoff is an F, then 32 is like a D minus. So we want that to be much higher, right around 60, usually around 70 or 80 ideally for optimal immune function. Zinc is also an essential for immune regulation. It also helps with gut barrier integrity, and it makes sure that the binding, the zonulin, stays stronger in the intestines, not allowing for the permeability. Selenium is required for controlling inflammation and regulating immune response. Omega-3 fatty acids, it's a powerful anti-inflammatory compound that reduces autoimmune activity. And most people I test have a terrible omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, And a part of that's because they're eating those vegetable oils and not enough fish. Vitamin A from egg yolks, beef liver are critical for gut lining integrity and for immune function. Glutamine is also an amino acid that can directly heal your gut lining, and it's found in things like red cabbage, grass-fed beef, and eggs as well. But instead of identifying and addressing these nutritional deficiencies or insufficiencies, most doctors right now are simply using those medications. And that unfortunately is allowing the immune system to continue to struggle and to be stressed. So you don't have to stop medications to start a process like this, but doing a process like this in conjunction with medications can absolutely improve your results because you're affecting your health of your immune system, which will help everything in the long term. So you don't have to do either or. So here's what you need to do right now if you want to actually address some of the factors or the causes of autoimmunity. Step number one is get comprehensive testing. I'm not talking about just the basic blood work where they look at like 25 markers. I'm talking about like 85 markers where you can look at the nutrient deficiencies, insufficiencies. You can look for inflammation. You can look for cellular health, detoxification capacities. That's step one. Step number two would be also to look at getting a stool test, a GI map to identify if you have those gut infections that are causing the dysbiosis, the overgrowth, the leaky gut, and the intestinal permeability. And step number three would be remove the triggers. Eliminate gluten, sugar, alcohol, and vegetable oils. Go organic to avoid glyphosates. Address any infections found on testing. Remove those toxic exposures from your environment. Step number four would be rebuild your microbiome. Eat fermented foods daily. Use high-quality probiotics with diverse strains. Prebiotic fibers from vegetables, especially cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cabbage that contain sulforaphane, which can really help your body detoxify and eliminate toxins, and has also been shown to be helpful for the gut. Step number five is to heal your gut lining. Use glutamine supplementation. Address the issues of why you might have leaky gut and intestinal permeability. Step number six is optimize your nutrients. Get your vitamin D levels above 60. Supplement with zinc, selenium, omega-3s. Eat nutrient-dense foods. And I know this doesn't sound easy and it requires work, but being sick and unhealthy, not feeling your best is also really hard. And it's gonna take your active participation instead of just doing whatever the doctors want you to do. And if you look at like Dr. Terry Wahls, she did it, and thousands of other people have done it, so you can do it too. Your immune system didn't just randomly turn against you. Something inside of it triggered it, and those triggers can be identified and addressed. You don't have to accept a lifetime of progressive decline in your health. You have the power to heal, and if you want our help, there's a link somewhere where you can click and you can schedule a consultation, and we can help walk you through this entire process. And for those of you that are trying to do things on your own, I applaud you too. I have another video that you can watch. It's about gut healing and the things that drive the gut issues, and that link is somewhere on here too as well. I wish you the best. Good luck. Until next time, get well and stay well.